when we drift on river systems, we're always drifting over variables. And those variables include depth of water, speed of water, and irregularity insofar as the substrate or the bed of the river. You know, it could be a moss structure there at one time. Next minute we could be going over gravel, large rock, all sorts of variables. And often as not, you know, in many cases, to effectively fish with those different zones, you'd have to re-rig your system somewhere or other, or at least change something about, and that may be generally related to two things. One is the relative distance from your indicator to your flies and or weight, because those two primaries, i.e. the distance your indicator is from your flies and the relationship of weight added in between the flies and the indicator, determine how effective your drift is. And you know, over the years, I kind of spent a bunch of time, I guess, kind of figuring things out, I guess in some respects to make life a little easier, so I don't have to keep chopping and changing my rig systems around. Now, what this is explaining to you is that this would be deep water or a fast water rig. And what that requires is two things: the relative distance from the indicator to the flies and the amount of weight added. Now, if we go to the lower illustration, what we're now fishing is shallow water and slower water movement. So the consequence of it is we do not need on this rig the same amount of weight. The relative length of the rig is not actually so much of an issue. People think that it is, but it really isn't. So in order for us to effect a change during a process of drifting that boat, we have to do something. Now, how I make my systems up is this: I don't use one single weight factor, for example 1 BB shot or 1 AA shot. What I do is I make my weight systems up in increments of smaller weights, be it size 4s, size 6 or size 8, relative to depth and speed of water and the flies I'm using, which may carry weight such as a tungsten beadhead or they may not. This is what we define as a strung shot technique. Okay, so really at the end of the day what this system is that by the application of say 3 shots, and just for example we're using here say 3 number 4, and I'm fishing this kind of water which is fairly deep and fast, I need more weight. Now as I've moved down the river, I don't need that weight. The flies stay the same, and these 2 shots here are moved up the line as long as they're not close to the riverbed. Now you pinch these shots on in a manner where they're not so tight you can't move them, but they're not so loose as that they continually move up and down on your leader system. And one of the reasons why a shot generally moves on your leader system is, well, there are two. One is that you don't have them pinched on too tight, and in some cases you can't really pinch them that tight on very fine line anyway. The other one is the effect of casting. As you cast, it shoots that little lead shot down, and that's why you must always put in what we define as a stop knot that stops that little lead shot sliding down to your flies. Just a couple of things there that you need to always remember from the get-go, that the amount of weight that you attach can always be supported by that indicator, because that indicator acts as a means of buoyancy to support what it is you have below it. If your weight is in excess and it drags your indicator down, then you need to change the size of your indicator. The next thing you must remember, and assume that we've gone from deep to fairly shallow water, then these lead shot must be set closer to the indicator. So to all intents and purposes, here's the indicator, here is the shot, which is kind of mid-water in the column, whatever the case may be, before you terminate to the shot that's on the end of the rig to the flies. And because of the relative angle from indicator to the flies, that shot is going to be somewhere in that ballpark: indicator, shot, shot, flies. So it's not going to interfere with your system, which is fishing on an ear or close to the riverbed. Obviously, when you're fishing in deep water like this, you know, I'm not saying at times that I can't get fish to eat on pretty small flies, because I can. And I'm not talking about extremes, you know, as far as 20s, 22s and that. I mean, that stuff's more for fishing to trout in shallow water, slow water. And you know, the odds of them even seeing that in fast-moving water like this is not too good. Obviously, I increased to some extent the overall size of my midge patterns to suit this kind of water and deep water drifts, and these average pretty much between size 16s and 14s. And as you can see in my midge box here, for this higher water scenario, I got a lot of variations, different colors. I've got red midges, olive midges, tan midges, orange midges, variations, you know. Some have got silver bodies, some have got bit of fluorescent material added in the beads on the heads, and you know, many variations. You know, these ones here are the prism midges I developed. There's whitetail midges. So you know, just keep your options open. It's not, don't be too stereotyped into believing that, you know, where midge fishing is concerned per se, midge fishing by definition of the word, where chironomids is concerned, they always have to be micro small flies, because you're still actually fishing midges, but you're actually using midges of an appropriate size to fish fairly deep, fast water. You just need to make sure that you've got pretty much good connection to the drift, not too much excessive slack line, particularly when you're fishing deep water like this also, because you know, you've got to move the rod fairly quickly to set the hook. Sometimes upstream, sometimes downstream. Right now we got a fairly gusty upstream wind, but fortunately we got a natural drift speed of water moving us downstream pretty much at about the same pace as the whole rig we're fishing is trucking. Sometimes you got a release line. You know, if things start getting a little tight toward your indicator, just kick out a little touch of line, that's all. Just slacken it up some. You know, currents move in different ways. You know, one minute may be a fast seam there or a slow seam here. You just kind of got to read the water. The trick to a lot of good drift fishing, I can tell you right now, is actually reading the water downstream before you get to it. This is not quite so bad, because pretty much it's fairly consistent here all the way going through. There's really not too much structure here other than on that far shoreline that create different issues. But yeah, pretty much that's it. You know, just try to keep everything out there nice and comfortable as far as your drift is concerned. Tailwater fisheries typically can provide cold water resources for the obvious reason that water is released from a dam, and that is also a conducive factor to creating good environments for chironomids, midges, no doubt about that. Most of the good midge fishing water that I'm aware of and have fished in my life almost is related to the fact that there is a dam releasing water to the tailwater system below it. The San Juan typically is the best known of all. Anybody that's ever fished there knows well, you know, that if you want to consistently catch fish on that river, you got to be fishing little small chironomids, because that's what the fish feed on probably 80–90% of the time. And there we go. Good drift. Fish on. What we're doing here, we're fishing a deep water midge nymph rig. Pretty much right now I'm on an overall system from my indicator to my flies of about 12 feet. And I've got approximately, well, I can tell you, I've got 3 number 4 shot on at this point in time to a stop knot above the 2 flies I'm fishing on the rig. But you know, the deal is at the end of it, having sufficient length, as I explained to you, from your indicator to your flies. That's the first thing. and the right amount of weight to maintain those flies somewhere near the bed of the river, but not enough to cause them to be dragged on the bottom, but enough to keep them down there in the visual zone of where those fish are looking. Most of the time, if I can get them off flies without having to get them in the net, I'll do that. I think it's a little easier on the fish. But you know, for the best part of it, most of the time, you'd be surprised. If you've got a fish well played out, you can actually draw the line back towards you, get your hand down there, gently turn the fish over, take the fly out, release the fish. There you go.
All right, come on. We're running around. Come on.
Yeah, he's on about a size 18 white-tailed midge. I'm not worried about the rod. There you go, that's a big white river rainbow on a size 18 white-tailed midge. Go ahead and look at it. Oh, not yet. He got this little fly out of his mouth. That's what he took. Got it? Come on, you booty, and let you go back. Good to go? Yep.